Welcome back to Bexhill West. I'm James. Now, once again, it's been quite a long time since my last video, I think about 4 weeks. Regular viewers will know that I've literally just moved house, and so that's the reason why video uploads have been so sporadic recently and not at all in the last month. Fortunately, I'm now moved, and I'm pleased to report everything's gone swimmingly. Everything is good in the hood, and if you have a look behind me, you'll see the view is absolutely fantastic. Now, in fact, I've only actually moved about 60 metres from where I was before, but all the paraphernalia and aggravation associated with moving house, that was exactly the same. Anyway, I've now moved, and I'm looking forward to a summer break from work, and so hopefully we'll be able to catch up with the channel and get lots done. Now, the purpose of this video really is to say a big thank you to everybody who has purchased one of my ballast vacuum systems. I've been blown away by how popular they've been, and at times been sort of struggling to keep up with it, but I think everybody who's ordered one has now got theirs, or it's on their way to them, and I thank you all very much for supporting the channel in this way. Certainly all the funds are going into a little pot and are going to fund some of the exciting developments which I've got planned over the coming months. Now then, since the model has been packed away, I've been spending quite a bit of time at the computer refining some of my design work for the E1 locomotive and the set of carriages that I'm intending to build. The sticking point is consistently making them look right, and the problem is not my design work, it's simply the gauge of the track. 00 gauge being too narrow, I cannot make things look right, at least not as sort of accurate as I'd like them to be. And bear in mind, the whole purpose of this project really was as a photographic diorama. I think I really do need to revisit the gauge of the track in order to make those elements that I'm going to put on it look and work effectively. So I spent quite a bit of time using a piece of computer software called Templot, as recommended to me by various viewers of the channel, and quite successfully I've got the track plan all redrawn, and so it looks as though in the next few weeks there will be an element of relaying of track to do. I'm undecided as yet whether that might sort of reappear in EM gauge or possibly P4. I'm kind of leaning towards P4. If you're going to sort of make all that effort, why not sort of do it as accurate as you can? So I've started making some videos around my first experiences of that design software, Templot, and some of my experiments with creating the track, and that's all coming in the next few weeks, so hopefully that'll provide some interesting content, and you can all learn along as I do. Now, I mentioned the E1 class locomotive project. That's really come on leaps and bounds. I've looked at the possibility of relaying track and some of the opportunities that that provides. If I widen the gauge, then I can revisit the design of the locomotive and the carriages and hopefully get them more accurate. And so I've spent an awful lot of time revisiting that. And you can see behind me I've got the sort of part of the drawing work for you to see now. In order for me to produce this, I'm going to need to produce a lot of etched brass parts, and there's an awful lot of etched brass work that I need to include elsewhere on the railway line. So what I've decided to do, in fact what I have done, I've invested in the equipment to enable me to produce those etched parts myself. It's a process I was involved with a few years ago, so I sort of roughly know what the score is, and I sort of know what equipment to look out for. I've got that, and I'm picking that up later on this week actually, so hopefully again next few weeks I'll have that set up, and we should be able to start to see some rapid progress with the locomotive and the carriages. And in fact what I want to try and do is record that process warts and all, because I dare say there will be several iterations as I refine the etches and hopefully get those to a point of perfection, and I think that could be quite an interesting little video series in itself, so that's coming up soon. Now what you see here is a fret, an etched brass fret for some wagon suspension units. Now I purchased these are by Bill Bedford. It really is an experiment to get my head back into the thinking of etched brass construction. So I've soldered one of these up, and this shows my first experiment with it. I put a wheel set in. Now this is a coach wheel rather than a wagon wheel, and as you see I spun it with my finger. Now I'm not sure how well the camera picks this up, but that thing is still spinning, and I put a timer on it just to show you just how free running that axle set is. It's a wheel set I should say. Now of course, being a coach wheel, it's solid, it's going to have greater flywheel effect, so clearly it's going to spin for longer than one might normally expect, and the fact I'm holding it vertically means it's spinning on one pinpoint rather than two. But even so, we are sort of 50 seconds into this spin and it's still spinning, and it's spinning really beautifully. This has sold me on the idea of floating axles and the quality with which they run. And whilst running these things is not an objective of mine, it's not a priority, if I'm going to go to all the energy of engineering stuff how I'd like it to be, I think this sort of running characteristic is really important, and this is what I shall be aiming for the locomotive and also the carriages. What I'm going to do in my next video is I'll show assembling one of these units, and you can see what's involved. Now, as I say, that's a P4 wheel set, but it could also be 00 gauge or EM. And here we go, you can just see the springing effect. I think they're impressive little units, and it's really sort of sold me on the idea of fine scale modelling. So there we go, it's a quick video really, just to say thank you to all those people, and just to show you that whilst there hasn't been a video the last few weeks, there's been progress and quite a lot of thoughtfulness gone into what's coming up over the next few weeks. Now, a benefit of the fact that I've moved will be that I actually have a little bit more space to set up sort of studio facilities a little bit better, so hopefully we can see some more videos coming much more regularly, and I hope over the course of this summer to include a little bit of workshop time as well, and you can see me actually working on some of these projects a little bit more. So that's it for me from now. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to say this, I think this feels like a natural sort of stopping point for these videos. So I'm going to call this the end of series 1 or season 1 or whatever it is, and we'll come back in 2 or 3 weeks time. I've got a new format planned, there'll be some changes to the video and hopefully some improvements in the quality of the presentation, so all of that is to come, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.